Have fun.
Thank you for having me. Let me try to turn it on. A bit different topic than most of the topics today. It's rather than enhancing the AI to perform better than a human being, it's about enhancing the human being to perform better than a human being. I actually replaced my very first slide after the dinner we had yesterday, because it seems that most of my co-speakers were very much puzzled. How can you survive in the same company for 17 years? So Nissan is the only company that I have ever worked with. The main reason is vehicles like this, and the main reason is that Nissan is actually a pretty strange company. Strange in the meaning that in the same fiscal year, we're announcing a high-tech EV, long-range, autonomous driving, level 2, hands-free on the highway, high-level driver monitoring. And in the same year, we're announcing a Fairlady Z, which is exactly the opposite. It's 400 horsepower, manual shift drive. Nowadays, manual shift drives. And then, back in Japan, we're talking about minivans, like the one over there. The one common sense between all this is that Nissan is about driving pleasure. That is our DNA. We're not doing this through 3 brands, 5 brands under the same company. It is the same brand who tries to deliver a positive driving experience to any kind of driver. And another thing that is not known, and this is why I actually decided to start with this, is that all of these products have been brain-tuned. They have been tuned by using brain measurements and by understanding how our brain actually works. So the heads-up display in ARIA has been tuned by measuring activity in the primary cortex and secondary visual cortex. The dynamic response of the Z has been used by understanding overall connectivity of our brain to generate a better and easier to control dynamics of the vehicle. And the navigation system in the area has been used by looking at how our brain processes navigation, information, and so on. So we've been using brain technology in order to enhance our systems. Now I'm using brain technology in order to try to enhance our drivers per se, saying, what if?
Study the electricity in some of the world's most elite drivers? What if we could improve the speed at which that electricity travels to increase performance? What if we could use this to enhance our driving experiences and excitement? What if we could? Harnessing electricity on track enhances what we do off track, so everyone can feel electric.
So this is the launch video of a program that we call Brain to Performance. And the theory behind Brain to Performance is that by understanding the brain activity of very, very good drivers, and by understanding the differences between very good drivers' brains and average drivers' brains, we might be able to develop the highly accelerated, bespoke training program that ultimately would be able to enhance the performance of first our Formula E drivers. But the idea is that if you can enhance the performance of a superhuman being, a Formula E, a Formula 1 drivers, then you have a very, very good chance to enhance the performance and the skills of our average drivers. So we started by saying, okay, if we reach an explainable, if we can explain correlations between brain activity and driving skills, and if we can explain the differences in anatomy between novice drivers and Formula E drivers, then we would have step one. Then we would be able to build a hypothesis of how to train, how to build a training program on top of this data. But before getting into what we have actually done, a bit of, well, take back know-how. Most of you might know all this already. I'll just go through it a little bit. In Japan, there is a numerical number that expresses the health of brain. Like BMI, I have a very high BMI, which is not good, but I've got a pretty good BHQ. This is a brain health quotient. Nissan has also been involved into building this database that maps different parts of volumetric parts of the brain and correlates them with health. Another brickstone that we're stepping on is using brain stimulation. Brain stimulation has been used as treatment as far as almost 700 years ago. Human beings knew that running small currents on the surface of the brain can at least release headaches. It's been used in hospitals for therapy for many types of diseases, and we know that it is a safe way of repairing or enhancing parts of the brain. Some of the research that we have been doing, we've got within Nissan this training program for our own drivers, the people who are doing research. This is another part of Nissan. In order to be a good researcher on vehicles, you also need to be a pretty good driver, especially the ones that design autonomous driving or systems that enhance the dynamics of the vehicle. So we have this training program when they send you for 1 week in Hokkaido with these very, very mean trainers. They will tell you this is not about skills, this is about personality and so on. So you get a very intense driving program for 1 week. So I measured the brains of young researchers before going to Hokkaido and 1 week later after training. And we found that parts of the cerebellum are physically larger. The same way you would use your muscle when you repeat doing a certain movement, that specific muscle gains a certain shape. That happens in the brain as well. We published, so now we are at the point of publishing things like this. So then we went further. We've got in Japan this group of professional drivers that drive the GT in GT classes, GT 500, GT 8000. It's seven drivers. So we put them through fMRI machines and we compared them with novice drivers. And we found that our Formula E, our Nismo drivers, they have larger parts of motor cortex control area. They have larger parts in the primal visual area. And also they have larger parts in larger parts of the hypothalamus. I will tell you a bit later what this means. And the last brick on why this is a good timing to start this kind of research is that you go online, you can actually buy different types of devices that do brain stimulation. So whatever happened in hospitals for 70 years, now there are portable TDCS devices, portable devices that can run small currents through the surface of the brain. There are portable TMS devices that run magnetic fields through the brain with specific functionalities. Some of the professional sports teams are already using technologies like this. So the US ski sports, the ski jump people, they're only repeating this. And they want to do it the same way in any conditions and so on. By stimulating the motor cortex when repeating this, they show that you can learn to do the same movement a lot quicker, and the movement becomes a lot more stable afterwards. My friends from Red Bull, who are even more innovative and have a lot of freedom to try this and that, they've done a very strong magnetic stimulation for endurance bicycle riders, and they showed that there's a very good impact on that. So more or less, we have the science, we have the tools. What can we do with this combination in order to enhance our drivers per se? So we ran. I forgot to mention a little bit of this. That's a Formula E car. Now it's too late to say. It's a Formula 1 car that runs only with electric power. It's very electric power. It's we are in season 9. So this kind of championships has happened for 8 years already. They call them season 8, season 9, season 10, and so on, because the season starts in December and ends somewhere in July, August next year. So they cannot call it season 21, 22, 22, 23. So then we decided to put this, we go through numbers. Specifics is not only it goes over these years, but also it's run in cities. Because it's electric, there's no sun, there's no gas. You close 1/3 of a city and you can have a racetrack, and you bring people and you can run high-tech vehicles in the middle of a city. So I've been working with our drivers and with universities to build this program for 2 years already. So this is what happened in season 7 and season 8. First thing we've done, working with a friend in University of Essex. Anybody recognizes that person? Just for my F1 literacy. There was a person who's very good at knowing F1. No, all right, good. That's Sebastian Buemi. He was one of the top 20 human beings in driving vehicle, means that he was driving for Red Bull and for Toro Rosso in Formula 1. For the last few years, he's been driving for Nissan in our Formula E teams. So I asked our two drivers, Maximilian and Sebastian, to go to Essex to do a 1-year recording in a driving simulator to get a baseline of their electrical brain activity when driving for 1 hour in a certain task in a driving simulator. At the same time, we had 20 students coming for 10 days in a row, driving on the same lap that they have done for 1 hour. So basically they trained for 10 hours in a row. For half of them, we stimulated parts of the workload memory, so helping them, hypothetically helping them, hoping to help them to remember quicker the track and to remember the dynamics of the vehicle. Then for the other half, we just told them that they are stimulated. So they all wear this TDCS device from University of Copenhagen. Okay, I'll just try. It's the theme of the day, apparently. We have screens and we don't have screens. So 50%, it's like a placebo test. All of them wearing the same device. Hey, you're going to be stimulated. Let's see how you learn this track. What happened is the stimulated group learned the track 50% faster. So what you see, it's everybody gets faster. And then they plateau, and then they start using the car better, and again they start getting faster. The stimulated group, they got faster. The stimulated group, they learn the car, again, 50% faster. And more importantly, it's not something that happens just once. The retention rate was also better. Retention rate means they drive for 1 hour, they get a little bit better, then they go away for 1 week, they come next week, and they don't start at the same point where they were. Obviously, you forget part of it and you restart. But the stimulated group was starting constantly from a higher point. So you can learn faster, and it stays for longer. And another finding that we had is there's this basic, maybe most of you have heard, alpha band. There are different frequencies that we split our brain activity. In alpha band, this is the area where data transfer happens. So different parts of the brain, they start correlating, working in a synchronized method in this alpha band when you perform best. And we saw a lot higher alpha band correlation in the brains of the Formula E drivers, and we saw this increasing over time for the train drivers. So this was experiment number 1 that we've done in Essex University. The second one, I still wanted to see, since I have 2 of the best human beings in the world with at driving, I still wanted to see how the brain maps, how the anatomy of the brain is different to the average driver. And we saw similar things with our professional Gran Turismo drivers. So again, the visual cortex were larger, motor cortex were larger, thalamus were larger. But for these 2 specifically, The cerebellum, and this correlates with the very first test that we've done with sending our guys to Hokkaido, the encoding of motion-related controls is so deep that the cerebellum is also physically larger. The interpretation is obviously visual motor cortex, high-scale visual motor cortex, and also the thalamus. Thalamus is this area in the center of the brain that controls all the basic biophysiological status of our body, but also helps us be aware of our own status. These guys, they also do endurance driving. They drive for 6 hours, for 7 hours in a row. So they need to be very well aware of their own body status. This is why I think the thalamus is significantly different. So that was season 7, season 8. Season 8 was about trying things with the drivers per se. Going one slide back, if you remember, I just said connectivity in the alpha band was a lot higher for Formula E drivers. Would that help them to have an even stronger connectivity? Would it be helpful to have a little bit faster alpha band? This can be interpreted from computer's point of view. You have a faster motherboard clock and a cleaner clock. So I tried giving them a cleaner, faster clock. We're working with a startup, Neuroscience, they're from Los Angeles, close to where I live in Palo Alto. This device has been developed for PTSD, for brain trauma. These types of brains, they have a slower, dirty clock. So they are fixing those kind of brains. This was the first time with them that we tried on athletes to improve performance per se. Since we don't have a baseline, that's the difficult part with working with very special people. I cannot make a control group to say you're not stimulated and these guys are stimulated. Nobody would accept to join that team. The only thing I can ask them, okay, how do you think you're performing? And they both said the first morning that they used the device and they've got in a driving simulator to drive for 6 hours to prepare the car for the New York test, they said, this is a very sharp, this is a very good day. I can concentrate right away and I can drive for long periods of time. Placebo or not, I still need to work on that for during the next seasons. And I'm planning to do that, to tell them that they are stimulated and not do anything and see how they perform. But it just happens. This is before a real race in New York. We had them use this device for 30 minutes, which basically just puts most of the brain in a coherent way of working on a bit faster alpha band that they have, so it's bespoke to their own brain. And we had the best result in that weekend. Again, nothing scientific behind that, but it's good enough to continue and to try further enhancing this program. It keeps going. The second protocol that we've done is this. We tested it we've tested it with average drivers first. If you give a little bit of electrical stimulation to certain parts of the brain that respond to outside stimuli, and then you do real-time feedback on the response of the brain to that kind of stimuli, you can increase the response. I think I've got you all sleeping now with this encryptic way of speaking, but imagine this. You push the pedal too strong, the rear tires start slipping, and then you have a start half a fraction of a second slower than the electric. The car is not moving yet. The tires are slipping. Tire slipping for them means 10 degrees of movement on the road. So they are extremely sensitive to these small changes of dynamics of the vehicle. But and this what this means. This means that there's a circuit in our brain that fires every time something like that happens. Every an event that you don't want to happen happens, you have this thing that fires. When the stimuli is smaller, the response is smaller. So that's where you reach your limit. You cannot detect lower than 5 degrees and so on. With them, by stimulation and by training, we showed that you can train your brain to react stronger to smaller devices, smaller stimuli. So they are now actually better at controlling small sleeps of the car by going through this training program that we have done. And we are doing this now, extending it to different types of control and trying to apply it to our average driver. So this is season 7, season 8. We're starting next season in December, so in 1 month time. I'm not allowed to show you. The cars are completely changed. There's a new generation of vehicles that we'll be driving. There's supposed to be world's fastest charging technology also deployed this year in Formula E. The plan is to go from trial to full integration. So that's a picture in New York this season. We had just a few trials during this current seasons. For next seasons, we want to have it brain training and physical training. This is your pack. You come to join Nissan as a driver. This is what you go through in order to be able to drive our vehicle. So we plan to have all these partners that we had together during these 2 years to build one coherent training program that our drivers will go through. But ultimately, why I'm doing this, more than Formula E, I'm doing it in the hope that we can build a very, very quick training methods for our average driver, for our very young driver who's like this behind the wheel, and we cannot talk about driving pleasure in a very nice vehicle that we can drive just because the limit of the skill is that. So I am trying now to work with different parts in our company to develop a training booth. It sounds fiction, but it's definitely not fiction, that you can have in our dealerships. So then you can come with your car for a mechanical checkup, and I think most of the people are reading a book or going through the phone for half an hour. Instead of doing that, you get your car fixed, you train yourself, you go back with a better car, being a better driver. That's what I'm trying to ultimately reach through this driving performance enhancement program. And more or less, this is all I had for you today in terms of contents, and I'm happy that we have enough time for a few questions.